They thought Chrissy would ride for Jim Jones no matter what. But today, Christine isn't riding. She's pleading in the center of traffic on her knees, wailing so loudly that paramedics had to remove her off the pavement. Why? Because only hours earlier, Jim Jones was pulled out of his studio, arrested, humiliated, and exposed. And guess who triggered the entire thing off? Cameron's staff, not the media, not the cop's family. They didn't release a clip. They leaked an effing documentary, voice notes, deleted messages. Security footage from a hotel Chrissy didn't even know about, all leaked on a burner account that's already racking up views like wildfire. And it gets worse, the voice in the clip wasn't Jim's, but someone far too close to. Chrissy is saying things that make this whole relationship feel like one big setup. This isn't love and hip-hop drama. This is treachery on a level no one was prepared for. And now the internet is erupting. Harlem is in upheaval. And Chrissy, she simply mumbled something under her breath that left even officers motionless. He told me this would happen if I ever revealed the truth. But just when everyone thought things couldn't get worse for Chrissy, the scenario took a horrific turn. According to various reports, Cameron's cousin, who formerly worked in private security for a well-known company, was following her not by paparazzi or admirers, but by a private surveillance team. Politicians are now tracking Chrissy's travels for reasons that no one is ready to confess publicly. One anonymous source even added, they're not just watching her, they're waiting for something. Nobody knows what that something is, but the panic on Chrissy's face when she was observed at a New Jersey gas station, hands shaking, pacing back and forth while whispering on the phone, conveyed the full tale. And this is where it spins out of control. Cameron's aunt, the same one who used to battle with Chrissy back in the early 2000s over a backstage incident, published a handwritten note to a gossip blog in which she claimed that Chrissy, who tipped off law enforcement about Jim's covert meeting with former crew members who were under federal surveillance. If that's true, then it's beyond treachery. It's war. Let's pause for a moment. This isn't some tabloid rumor. The letter is dated, signed, and written with fury. One sentence actually reads, Chrissy always knew the streets weren't built for Jim, and now she's playing cleanup crew to save her own skin. The streets lighted up, blogs ran wild, and Chrissy the informant became a trending subject on Black Twitter overnight. One user said, like if El Chapo's lady snitched and wept on IG, live after I ain't believing it. While another remarked, she crying too hard is a sign of guilt, not sadness. What about the videotape that broke the internet just about the time this letter dropped? Cameron's family posted what they dubbed the final straw video. Edited like a Netflix documentary teaser, it begins with surveillance footage from a Manhattan rooftop bar showing Jim giving a strange envelope to a cloaked man. There is no soundtrack, only frightening quiet. The video switches to Chrissy coming out of an Uber 5 minutes later, looking concerned, scanning the neighborhood. Then boom, dazzling lights, FBI coats, and Jim in cuffs. But here's the catch. Cameron's cousin, who shared the video, added this. In the caption, the whole tale has been warped. Here's what the public didn't see. She knew she'd leave him there. Are we seeing a set of ideas began flooding YouTube, Reddit, and even TikTok? One famous thread split it down like a movie. Scene 1, Chrissy encourages Jim to make peace with old associates. Scene 2, she mistakenly recommends a time and location knowing the Fed's been watching. Scene 3, she shows up weeping. What's going to happen? And people ate it up. Even Mama Scott, who has previously declined to comment on several difficult situations, released a cryptic article titled, Sometimes Silence Protects the Guilty. Fans are confident that was intended at Chrissy. Now let's speak about the purported financial paper trail. Multiple unsubstantiated sources indicate that Chrissy created a new offshore account 2 days before Jim's arrest. The deposit was a cool $250,000, and guess who wired it? A shell business owned by one of Cameron's uncles. Nobody thinks so, and one user even shared an image of the supposed transfer with the description, she cashed in. Her boyfriend wants clout and a payment. The story swirling, you had those accusing Chrissy of being a CIA plant. Others say she was missiled by Cameron's family into believing Jim was going to leave her for someone younger, so she panicked and made a deal. Whatever the reality is, it's uglier than we've ever seen. And if you think Jim doesn't know all this, insiders say, he's refusing to answer her calls in jail. Him ghosting her, the same lady who kept him down through career comebacks, label disputes, and a dozen near breakups now. He won't even accept her phone calls. Ain't that cold as the court date draws. Then observed to church twice in 1 week, donning sunglasses at night and strolling with her head down. People close to her claim she's not sleeping, not eating, and is constantly checking her phone like she's waiting for more bombshell. And just when we thought the story was cooling down, Cameron's sister got in. Oh yeah, you heard that right. She uploaded a black and white photograph of Chrissy and Jim captioned with nothing but a broken heart emoji and the words, "You knew better." That post gained over 80,000 likes within 2 hours, and in the comments, outright anarchy, with many demanding Chrissy come clean, others defending her, a few calling wanted a full-blown reunion special to expose it all. Chrissy had always been renowned for her strong facade, the lady who had withstood the storm of love and hip-hop's mayhem, the explosive relationship with Jim that looked invincible. But behind the closed doors of their home, things were far from ideal. The public never noticed the fissures, the late-night disputes, or the whispered worries. She had stood with Jim for years through his legal difficulties on his neighborhood, connections, and the ever-present threats lurking over him. But the instant those handcuffs clasped around his wrists, it was as if the cosmos had broken. The life she believed she had established as she stood outside the courthouse, her world, came crumbling down, not just because Jim was jailed, but because of what she didn't know, the things that had been concealed from her. The very people she believed she could trust had turned on her. And now, as cameras flashed, social media exploded with whispers. Cameron's family, the same people Jim had known as his own, dropped a devastating piece of information that nobody was prepared for. Hours after Jim's arrest started coming in, first a series of private talks between Jim and some of his closest confidants, now in the hands of Cameron's team. Then came the recordings, blurry at first, but obviously real, in one of which Jim is seen in a furious conversation with an unknown entity, plainly discussing plans that had nothing to do with the life he had made with Chrissy. The weight of these disclosures was like a tidal wave, and Chrissy was left in its aftermath. Drowning in bewilderment and rage, her phone buzzed incessantly. One message after another streamed in, all with the same stunning news: Cameron's family had information that might expose not just Jim but also her. It was a betrayal like no other. The same individuals who had previously considered her family were now behind this tragic leap. Chrissy attempted to keep strong, but it wasn't long before the tears began to pour and the mask of serenity slipped away as continued to flood the media. The public couldn't get enough. Twitter, Instagram, and every other channel burst with responses, some sympathizing with Chrissy, some accusing her of being part in Jim's scams. The world was ravenous. Chrissy was forced to answer a question she couldn't even begin to process. How much of Jim's life had she genuinely known? At this time, the media had depicted Chrissy as the tragic figure, the woman whose loyalty had driven her down a dark and terrible road. But the narrative wasn't finished. The films, photos, and texts were only the beginning. Back at the Yai house, Chrissy faced a new battle. The public versus her private life. The woman who had the queen of reality TV was now the focus of a merciless glare. Every friend, acquaintance, and everyone who had ever been a part of their life was suddenly a potential suspect in this escalating scandal. Jim's arrest. The beginning was the disintegration of a life that Chrissy had created on weak footing, but things weren't adding up. If Jim was engaged in something this serious, why had Cameron's family waited until now to reveal M? Was the true motivation behind the leak? Chrissy wasn't only battling to clean Jim's name anymore, she was fighting to clear her own. The next day, a surprise visit to the lawyer's office took an unexpected turn. Chrissy strolled into antiseptic room, the weight of the situation crushing down on her shoulders, but what the lawyer told her next would change the course of this entire saga. "There's something you need to know," he murmured gently, his voice just above whisper. "We've had eyes on Cameron's family for some time now. They've been building a case against Jim, and it appears they've been waiting for the best opportunity to strike. But what you don't know is the proof they've published was not intended for public consumption. It is part of something much larger. Chrissy's heart raced as she listened, her thoughts racing with concerns about who was pulling the strings behind it all. What was Cameron's family seeking to achieve? And most importantly, was Jim the guy she thought he was? Or had she been blinded by love all these years? Days passed, the strain on Chrissy increased, the whispers got wilder, leakage became more regular, and the strain to maintain her calm nearly excruciating. But through it all, one thing remained constant, the feeling that something was missing. She couldn't escape the nagging feeling, and then came the ultimate discovery late one night as Chrissy browsed through her phone. A new message arrived. It was from an unknown number. The message was brief: "The truth is worse than you thought. You've been set up." With shaky palms, Chrissy clicked the connection, and what she saw left her in amazement. A fresh video had appeared, one that had never been seen before. This time, it wasn't Jim on the screen, but someone she had never expected. One of Jim's closest pals caught in a chat with none other than Cameron himself. The talk was clear. Jim was never supposed to be the fall man. This was a well-organized move that would bring down the whole empire Jim had fought so hard to construct. Chrissy sat in the background, ignorant to the game being played directly in front of her. When the television went blank, Chrissy's life came crumbling down once more. She wasn't just caught up in a controversy. She was at the night Chrissy viewed that final film. Everything she thought she knew about her life, Jim, and even herself was broken into a million pieces. The reality, if you can call it that, was far more insidious than she could have ever imagined. Jim was not only the guy she had stood by for years. He was a piece in a larger, more dangerous game that had been meticulously choreographed by individuals she felt she could trust. In the middle of it all, Chrissy found herself trapped between loyalty, treachery, and an overpowering yearning for the truth. The video that had come out of nowhere was unsettling. Cameron, the guy who had previously called Jim his brother, seen smiling with one of Jim's closest cronies. The talk seemed casual at first, but the underlying danger was evident. They weren't discussing business as usual. They were scheming a far larger demise than. Chrissy was unconscious of the storm whirling around her, playing her role as the supportive girlfriend, naive to the deeper impulses at work in Chrissy's heart. As she reviewed the tape, her head swirled with questions that had no answers. Why hadn't she noticed the signs? How long had Cameron's family been plotting this betrayal? And what was her part in all of this? Was she just a pawn, a means to an end? In a game she didn't even realize she was playing, the messages started flowing in immediately after the video went viral. Chrissy's name was on everyone's lips, but it wasn't the support she had hoped for. Chrissy couldn't look at the screen longer since the comment sections were filled with accusations, judgments, and poisonous conjecture. They inquired how long she had known about Jim's illicit actions. On her, and in the midst of the commotion, the one person she needed most, Jim, was behind bars, and his silence left her to fight this battle alone. But Chrissy wasn't one to back down. She'd been through worse. Her whole life had been under public scrutiny, and if there was one thing she knew how to do, it was to survive. The woman who had created a career out of reality TV drama and had battled tooth and nail to keep her private life exactly that secret, was suddenly thrust into the public glare in the most dramatic way conceivable. The first step was clear. In the dark of night, Chrissy made a choice that would impact everything she reached out to. Cameron directly. It was a move that might either make or ruin her. After all, Cameron wasn't just any guy. He was a figure of authority, a man with his own agenda. But Chrissy wasn't afraid. She was going to find out the truth. She needed to go right to the source. The phone call was tight. Every word, every pause, every quiet between them seemed like a mine ready to explode. Chrissy's voice quivered at first, but she swiftly, "I know what you've been doing," she continued. "I know you've been behind everything, the leaks, the films, the falsehoods, and I want to know why you're doing this to Jim." There was a lengthy silence on the other end of the line, and for Chrissy feared he was about to hang up. But then Cameron spoke, his voice low and measured. "You don't get it, Chrissy," he said. "It's not about Jim. It's never been about Jim. It's about you, You and your loyalty, you're the one. Who's been in the way all this time? You've been protecting him and covering for him. But you didn't know the whole story, did you? Chrissy felt the drain from her cheeks. What do you mean, Jim's in too deep? Cameron continued. He's been making moves, pulling strings with people you don't even know. You've been blinded by love. And now it's too late. There's no turning back from this. Chrissy's grip tightened around the phone. So what do you think? You're going to damage him, ruin us? No, Cameron answered, his tone chilly. I'm not destroying anyone. I'm just disclosing the truth, which Jim has been suppressing for too long. The phone ended suddenly, and Chrissy was left standing in the middle of the room, her thoughts spinning. Cameron had just admitted to everything. But there was more to this than he was telling her. There was a broader plan at play, and she wasn't going to sit quietly by as everyone around her destroyed the life she had battled for. In the days that followed, Chrissy investigated more into Cameron's history, his connections, and his true goals. Cameron's family, along with numerous other influential characters, had been pulling the strings behind the scenes, using Jim as a pawn in a wider game. It wasn't simply about street beef or old grudges. It was about money control and a power battle that spread across sectors. But in her pursuit for answers, Chrissy uncovered something that would change everything. The proof that had been released, damning films, images, and emails had been edited. They weren't simply exposing Jim. They were meant to shatter Chrissy and make her question all she knew about the struggle for her life and her love. Far from done, Chrissy wasn't going to allow Cameron or anyone else take everything from her without a fight. As the drama unfolds, it appears that we're only touching the surface of this combustible narrative. Finally come clean about her role in Jim's arrest? Or is this the ultimate breach of trust? One thing is for sure, this tale is far from done, but we want to hear from you what you believe occurred. Was Chrissy an innocent bystander caught up in a mess? Or is there something far deeper at play here? Drop your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to press that like button if you're just as surprised by this turn of events as we are. You don't want to miss what happens next, so be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when the next bigger-than-life drama breaks. You know we're on top of everything, giving you the raw, unfiltered truth. Stay tuned, because if you think this was wild, just wait for the true mysteries. Just getting started.